Boom! Coach Base. Fame, strength.
Uh-oh.
We're in the building, man. As you can see, this beautiful facility, man, we're continuing to level up. Just opened up the recovery lab. You're still growing on the recovery lab. How's that going?
Yeah, man. Hey, first of all, thanks for coming through, man. I'm glad you
thanks
guys
for having us.
appreciate the space. But it's an awesome thing that you guys are doing. So, I'm happy to help for you guys. And, like you said, a recovery lab, we just dropped it last May, so it's a year. I just showed you the back room so you see what it's like.
Beautiful.
Important sports recovery, human wellness.
It's a beautiful gym you have here, man. When did you open this location?
So this location was dropped in 2018.
Okay.
All right, so we're about 12 years in the game now. But 18 was the big leap, so to speak, right? Like when we went to the next level, this was the move.
Yeah.
18. So we've been there since, and obviously we opened up a second location.
Yeah, he was just telling me about that. It's dope, man.
Yeah. So you and I had these talks. Me and him been chatting it up. Josh Mason was a big mentor for me growing up. He used to give me game about sports, about business, about life, growing up as a young man. So I really appreciate that. He's one of those people in the community that, we need, So how did you get into starting a gym? How did you get into creating what you're creating right now and building Fame Strength? Like, how'd that come about in your life?
So it was real simple. It's through sports, right? So obviously this is connected in some sense. So growing up, the dream was always to go to the league, right? I wanted to play football and go to the league. I got as far as to the college level, and at the college level, there was a seed planted, and that seed was essentially this, right? You start to mature. I ended up having a daughter young, and you make that switch of like, okay, NFL, the sacrifices. Are you there? Like, are you willing to go through that, or should you start lining things up on the back end? So it was one thing where I was like, all right, if I'm not going to the league, I'm opening up my own gym, And the reason behind that was simply the one time I went back home with one of my roommates in college, and he took me to a gym in Jersey. He was like, listen, we're going to go get a workout in, no doubt, right? So back home, all we knew was like the Odyssey, those YMCA and your school gyms. He pulled me up to a warehouse, and they opened up the door, and it was packed. It was all athletes. And my jaw dropped because I was like, yo, what is this?
Right.
And he's like, dude, this is where we train.
Yeah.
And I was like, no wonder why y'all have the advantage.
Right.
Like that was right there was just a light bulb. And I was like, this is why the athletes from New Jersey or other states have the advantage, because these resources. I didn't have this growing up. Our area, none of the area athletes had that growing up. Why should we have this disadvantage?
Yeah.
So right there was like, you know what? I'm going to bring it home.
That's like some pioneership type stuff.
I'm going to bring it home, because we need to put the area on the map. We need to give our area athletes the advantages.
Yeah.
Set them up for success. So when they have this resource to take in, now when they're going to the next levels, whatever that is, it could be going from junior high to high school, high school to college to pro. They have that background, this resource to maximize their potential. And that was like the whole concept behind it when I started it up.
Yeah.
So,
like, are you heavily involved, would you say, like, with the product or the production of the youth, like, coming up over the next, say, few years? You said you've been at it for how long now? About 12 years? Have you seen, like, a rise in, like, the potential of these kids growing up in this area?
Yeah, 100%. So it seems to be like our area is behind, right?
Yeah.
In the facet of whether it's sports development, performance training, the club scene, the AAU travel, all of that good stuff. We're always behind. So I want to make a push to say, hey, listen, no, we're going to create resources for these kids so they can be maximized, right, at the end of the day. So we've been tackling this for years now, and yes, over the years, I remember when I first dropped this, people didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's like they see us flipping tires. We got battle ropes. We're using odd objects. There was like a hard-nosed kind of training style to it. People didn't get it.
Yeah.
So they're like, what kind of gym is that? Right? They questioned it. And, now this is commercial. Like, this is what you see, right? Like, you see top athletes, like, this is what they're doing. This is where they're training. So, yes, I saw it evolve to where it caught momentum. And I mean, the place that we're at today, this is, like, super essential.
Yeah.
Just because of, I was just telling DT earlier about, these kids starting at younger ages. They are hitting the club and the travel scene. So their volume of play is like 10 times what it used to be, like growing up. So now there's risk, right? You have risk of injury, there's overuse, and these kids aren't even developed. So how can we counteract that? Like, besides rest or whatnot, you have to get stronger, right? We have to build integrity in your joints and tendons and things like that. So, like, this is super essential right now.
Yeah, there's no shortage of potential in this area, though.
No.
And I don't think there ever has really been. Like, we've always had good athletes. I just think, like, there was never really that outlet to maximize the potential that they did have.
Yes.
So, like, you're a person who puts a lot in the back end of this gym as well. Like, you and I talk about books a lot. We talk about expanding our mind a lot. So how did you develop the type of, like, exercise philosophy to give these athletes the max amount of athletic performance that they can?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, I mean, obviously, I went to school. I went to Temple Sports Management, Exercise Science. So you have that background, right? I think the beauty of it was being the athlete, right, himself, and also being able to apply that, right, logically. Coming into the gym was more or less like the lab. So what I would do is test everything. So, hey, the book says this, right? You do this, and, all right, what was our results? You know what? I think I could do it better. Let me try this. Wow. Look what that came.
Yeah.
Right? Like, look what happened.
Trial and error.
Trial and error, right? And as the lab, now I get to test my thoughts, the philosophy, things I pick up, I'm reading, people I interact with that I can put together that say, you know what, I think this would be the best route.
Yeah.
And I don't just say it because it is what it is. I say it because there's proof.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's the results. This kid got faster, right? This kid got stronger. He could jump higher.
And we're doing, like, resistance stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of, I mean, I wish you guys could see the whole setup, but there's, like, stuff where, what's that one machine we just, you guys just got where you hook, like, a resistance band against you? Yeah, Raptor.
The Raptor machine.
And then there's that, which is in the back room, which is like what? You get on a treadmill.
High performance treadmill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
fire.
And that type of equipment, that type of exercise is able to produce those type of results to make a person faster, more explosive, in those type of ways.
Yeah.
It's very interesting shit.
At the end of the day, I'm always trying to sharpen the tool. Like like what we have is I'm not settling. Like this is not it. So I'm always seeking. I'm always learning. I'm still listening. I'm open-minded to new thoughts and new philosophies because, hey, how can we be better? And because if I'm better, right, then my team's better. Yeah. And if my team's better, this gym's better. And if this gym's better, think about the benefits to the athletes and the community, right? So it just kind of ripple effects down there.
Yo, what do you think about knees over toes? That's like a new thing that's coming out.
Yeah.
What do you think about that type of stuff? That's definitely unorthodox because when I was even younger, I'm sure when you were younger, they told us never to squat, never to have that 90 degree.
That's all in the textbooks and
completely
everything
different
too.
now. What do you think about that?
So like I touched on it before, right? Like, hey, this is what the book says.
Yeah.
Right? So it's, we always have this recycled education or recycled information, right? Like it's like, hey, listen, your knees shouldn't be over your toes. Knees shouldn't be over your toes. This is, and in some situations that they are correct, right? Can increase risk for injury. Yeah. But at the end of the day, what he did was, one, he found that niche. He went against the grain. But also, if you do it in a capacity of where it's not going to hurt you, and you can develop like a progressive overload approach, why not? And then, obviously, you see it. You see the benefits behind it. But, like, when I first saw that coming on, I was like, oh, interesting. And I followed it. I was like, oh, okay. But then I was like, it makes sense.
It does.
It makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, when there's injuries occur, it's typically when you're in a position that you don't train in.
Yeah.
Right? So now that philosophy is like, hey, we're going to train out of those concrete positions. So, I mean, it makes sense, man. Hats off to him.
Is there any other like big misconceptions that like you ran into in starting this whole thing? Like you were taught, say, something athletically or physically one way, and then you learned along the line that like there's changes kind of similar to the whole knees over toes thing, that you were able to like then implement some of your own like knowledge and technique into, and then you improved on something that you thought, I don't know, I guess is there any like, say, big just broad misconceptions that you thought were one way coming into this whole thing that you learned were differently now, like being involved in the gym scene for this long?
What I'll do is I'll give you like a general misconception in the sense of like what I do here, right? And what we do to the sports performance end of it. So as we know, and going back, you know, in the older days, it was more or less of bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
So when athletes were like, hey, you're hitting the weight room, you're going to lift.
Yeah.
They were taught body building movements, right? Isolating muscles. We're going to get bulky. You're not going to be able to move, right? Like, so the misconception of like a place like this, some people say, oh, no, I'm not going to send my kid there because I don't want him to get bulky.
Yeah.
I don't want to stunt growth. I don't want to, you know, make them big. But what they're missing is this is not bodybuilding.
Okay.
Right? So if you think of sports, right, you have the umbrella of sports, but you have hockey, you have football, you have softball, you have baseball, right? They're all different, but they're a sport.
Yeah.
It's the same thing of like training. There's training. There's bodybuilding. There's powerlifting. There's CrossFit. There's performance training. There's speed training, right? It's the lanes. Performance training is maximizing your athleticism through attributes.
Okay.
It's not for us to get big arms, big shoulders, big chest. Now, does that come with it? Some sense, yeah, but you have to program for it, right? So the idea is for us to increase performance.
So it's more like functional. It's like more functional movements, where a lot of muscles are working together in a lot of these movements, like a power clean or
so it
like
could
that.
translate, right? Translate over to the field.
You got big into that recently. How much has that been improving, would you say, like your athletic capabilities, like functional training?
I think functional training helps a lot with like imbalances, because I think if you focus, and if you're an athlete, if you focus a lot on isolating muscles, like you're specifically doing chest or you're specifically doing shoulders or whatever it might be, I think that with functional movement, it's more it's better because like more muscles are working in conjunction with each other. You know what I mean? I think that's how that happens more on an athletic field or a court or whatever. Like, you know what I mean?
Listen, man, at the end of the day, sport is movement.
Yeah.
Right? So like, if you're saying we're going to train, like there has to be some movement.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? If you're training in movements and movement patterns, you know, a slow athlete or an athlete that might struggle is an athlete who has resistance or restrictions in their movement patterns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so the idea here is to break through that.
I think there's also like a fair amount of mind-muscle connection that develops once you're doing more functional movement and like coordination, you know, because like I said, those isolation movements, like they don't teach the body how to move in a synchronized motion, like how you would during an athletic event, which I think is far better for athletes. 100%. I think that's a misconception, because when I was training in the weight room, Valley West, Myers, no disrespect, but we were doing bodybuilding exercises still in 2020, 2019.
Seems like football like heavily revolves around a lot. Well, at least when we were coming up, a lot of like more bodybuilding type workouts, you know what I mean, rather than functional training.
But I think that's really cool. But I saw the other day you guys were just giving out, speaking of the community, you guys were just giving out Fame Day scholarships, right? You guys gave out $4,000 to 4 different athletes that train here.
Well, that's tough.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Talk a little bit about that.
like, to be honest with you, that's probably one of the proudest things that has come from this, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to think about it. You know, we're not just a gym, and that's a saying that we have here. It's more of like a family.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm passionate about this. And being passionate behind it, you know, I knew I had something in me where I was like, I want to help, right? I want to help. Like, at the end of the day, yes, we get paid for our service.
Yeah.
But, like, I just want to help, right? I just want to make you better. How can I improve your life? And, you know, we sat down with the team, and we're always, you know, brainstorming ideas. And a couple years back, we came up with the scholarship, right? And at the end of the day, what gyms are giving out scholarships, man? We've been doing it since 2017. Like you just said a couple weeks ago, we gave out $4,000.
Who'd you give it to?
Different athletes.
Who were the athletes?
So there was four different athletes. We had a soccer player, Grace Wilson. First, she came out of St. John's Fisher. Trinity from Valley West. She's a basketball player going to Rochester. We had Sarah. She's going to Oswego. And then Lauren Kane. She's at Quinnipiac playing field hockey. So, you know,
bunch of ladies getting after it.
I mean, they killed the dude. They put, and here's the thing with the application process, it's detailed. Like, I don't make it easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, because hey, listen, we're giving out money.
Yeah.
Like you already know our motto here: get your mind right.
Yeah.
Right? So like we have that environment, that atmosphere in here. So it's the same thing. If we're applying, I want to see your best.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just gonna say, hey, just give me your name and your information, and we're gonna give you some money.
Yeah.
Right. I make them walk through a couple hoops.
What is it? What's the process like for the application for the scholarship?
So essentially, first it's basic information, but then I ask for them to reconnect back with either their school AD or their coaches for signatures. Like that's
cool.
one. So now you got to connect on that tip. Second, there's questions that are answered, right? So our core values here at Fame Strength is passionate about what we do, dedicated to the process, driven to be the best. So within those core values, which one resonates most with you?
Yeah.
So they'll write an essay about that. And then the final essay is about how sports impact your life. So then we read through those too. So like people put these in. Then you have letter of recommendations that they're required to have on tap too. So it's, like I said, they have to put the work in.
Yeah.
And well deserved when they get it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But,
That's beautiful, man.
Yo, so a long time ago you came up with this philosophy of get your mind right. And I still live by this today. You know, sometimes, we get into funks, and especially people who are ambitious, that could be toxic to get in these funks and allow them to, take over your mind. So how did you develop that philosophy and that way of living, and even like something that everybody in this gym lives by, of getting your mind right?
Yeah. So experiences, right? Like life experiences, man. I had experiences where, it was tough times where like mentally you just had to like get your mind right, right? And it's easier said than done, right? It's a lifestyle. It's something that you have to continue to preach to yourself.
Yeah.
It's that positive voice, that louder voice in your head. I always have the analogy like, hey, you have the strong voice and a weak voice. And in most cases, people's weak voice is louder.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to turn the weak voice down, right, and get that strong voice up. So that's get your mind right. So, listen, man, things happen. People go through challenges. You're in tough situations. But at the end of the day, you have a choice. And your choice is how you're going to move through that, right? So, like, you could pity me. I could drop down. I can be the victim. I can say it's not for me. It's not set up for me. Or I can say, you know what? Like, I'm going to buckle down and make sure I make this happen. However long it takes me, but I'm going after it.
Yeah, it's a marathon.
Right? It is. It's a marathon. And get your mind right is like, hey, we're in the gym and like, yeah, we got maybe PR lists and whatnot. Like, get your mind right. Let's go. Right. So it's hype. But what I love most about it, it transfers over to life.
Yeah.
Like you just said, DT, like it's not just used in here. Like in life is get your mind right. Like, I have it on my wrist right here. And there's times I'm reminded every day.
Yeah.
When you go through, it's like you can start getting that weak voice, turn up a little bit, and it's just like, get your mind right. Like, all right, let's dial in.
That applies as like an entrepreneur as well, because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I'm sure like the trials and tribulations, man. The universe tests you every single day with that type of stuff. You and I talked about it. I remember you said it one way. It's like putting out fires.
Yep.
Like when you have something you're really working on, you're really passionate about, there's always something that just snaps up that you just got to attend to immediately. And I think you got to get your mind right. You got to stay fresh so that you can continue to be sharp and put out those fires.
Yeah. That's it. A lot of people I think are built on the notion of like everything is easy or everything's perfect.
Yeah.
And like if you think that way, you're going to be set up for failure. So, and I think what helped me is growing up, right? Like when I was growing up, not everything was perfect.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of money, right? We lived in apartment complexes. Like it wasn't nothing was given to me. So like those lessons taught me like, all right, sometimes you gotta grind. Sometimes you're gonna be a little down. Like that's gonna happen, but like you gotta keep fighting because if you look at the situation from where I came from to where the point I am today, it's amazing, dude.
Different.
Blessed.
Yo, do you think you subscribe to like the idea of manifestation and the law of attraction and stuff like that, or how do you like what do you go by faith? Like how does your mindset with that? Because this is very popular today. So how do you?
So you bringing that up,
Yeah.
that's probably the birth of Get Your Mind Right.
Yeah.
Is the whole manifestation, law of attraction. All right. When I was in college, I saw that movie, Law of Attraction, The Secret.
Yeah. Oh, Rhonda Bryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Secret.
Yeah. The Secret.
So when I first saw that, I was like, oh, shit. I was like, and then I read a book, The Success Principles. And Napoleon Hill, started following him a little bit. That switched everything for me, right? It told me, like, wait a second. We have a choice, right? We have control. Like, it's what you bring in, what you give off, comes back to you.
Yeah, very much
right?
so, man.
So from that moment, that's where I say, like, to get your mind right is because if you're continuing like, this always happens to me. Like, man, I don't have no money. Like, you're going to continue to receive that.
Yeah. Self-destructive.
Yeah, like you're going to, like, words of affirmation. Like that's so powerful, words of affirmation. Like, it kind of, like, goes underneath my skin when I hear, like, people talk negative talk. Like, it bugs me out. Seriously.
I hear you.
Only because I just know the damage that it's doing.
Yeah.
Because just the way I live my life and the way my mind's wrapped up, it's positive. And listen, not everything's perfect. You don't have perfect days. Like, I'm not saying it's like, hey, it's all, sunflowers and daisies. Like, but the majority is like, dude, you're blessed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, and you have opportunity.
Yeah.
It's not going to come easy, but you gotta put some work in. The whole thing about affirmations, and positive self-talk is one of, like, if I had to say a life principle, like, that has to be there.
It gotta be.
It has to be there.
Did you always have that, or was that something that, like, came about later on in your life?
Yeah, that came on later in life. So I would say right around my college years. So when I hung up the cleats in college, right, that was really where the shift happened because my identity was football.
Yeah.
That's all I knew, right? Like, my identity was football. So once I hung the cleats up, I was lost. I didn't know, like, who's Josh Mason?
Yeah, man.
Right? So, like, that's where that ultimate shift happened, and now I'm starting to think a little more, in the mind. So that was a big turning point for me to make things happen.
That's dope, man. So there's a quote: "The man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he cannot are both correct." And I think that speaks to that very, very correct or accurately. I really love that, man. And you and I talk about books a lot too. So what are some books that you think that really affected your mindset and helped you to develop this positive way of thinking?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many, right? But let's say like a couple.
Like the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, there's a couple out there, like The Magic of Thinking Big, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a book where it will help you feel either normal about the way your thoughts are, because I was always a big thinker. Or two, it's going to teach you and show you, like, this is the way you should be thinking.
Yeah.
And the magic of thinking big is it sets behind all of that. Like, we stop dreaming as soon as we hit that adulthood, right?
Yeah.
Like, kids were dreamers, right? But, like, it doesn't have to get cut off, right? Like, why can't you do this? Why can't you have these big dreams? It might seem impossible. The people next to you might not agree with you or hate or doubt or whatever the case is, but it starts there. So, like, get your mind right, right? So, like, if you're not thinking big here, like, how are you expecting big things to happen?
Yeah.
Right? So, like that's a book, like, definitely dial in. I'd say, who else? I have Napoleon Hill. There's a couple titles from him, and he's like an old school author. And he has, like, the manifestation was in there.
Yeah.
Success principles were in there.
He's Think and Grow Rich.
He's Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of lessons in there that you can learn. And I'll tell you, like, I learned those lessons through those books.
Yeah.
Because they weren't taught to me.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody around me to give me these principles or these life lessons. So I'm glad, I'm grateful that I found those books because I learned from those books, and I said, wait a second. Oh, wait, there's strategies to life.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
why isn't anybody like telling me this, or
Because they're not
why isn't this
onto
being
it.
promoted?
It's kind of rare.
Yeah.
And the goal is to keep everybody down. Like, why would you want somebody to know all that? That's how
Yeah.
like a lot of people think. You know,
They gatekeep the information. You think
Yeah.
so?
I think in a
But the
lot of
things are,
avenues.
like books, information, all of that stuff's out there. Right?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
You got to be able to. You got to have the want.
Yeah. If you're
Absolutely.
seeking,
To go
don't,
after
like
it.
he who seeks shall find.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're looking like, how can I do this? Or how, if that's constantly on your mind, it'll present itself in some way. It's kind of like looking for a yellow car. If
Yep.
you're not looking for a yellow car, you won't see a yellow car.
That's right.
But if you're constantly looking for an opportunity, it'll emerge in some way,
Always,
somehow.
Always.
There'll be some type of sign.
Yep.
I think that's really cool, man.
This spot's sick though. I heard he was just telling me you opened a new one in Dallas.
Yeah.
How's that been going
So
for
the
you?
second location, so we're probably 15, 16 months into the new location. And man, I couldn't be happier with the launch of that. We went up to Dallas, and that was the second location. And obviously it was a test to duplicate what we did, right?
Yeah.
We got systems and processes here. So, like, the idea to duplicate that and set that up in a new area, was exciting, but also, you're nervous behind you. You're not sure what's going to happen. I teamed up with a great dude by Matty Flanagan, and he's passionate about this thing, man. And our teamwork together up there is just it blew the lid off at the back mountain. So we're super excited about them, the athletes up there, and even grabbing the adults too. We're trying to build that up, but the Fame Strength in Dallas is right hand in hand where we're at here in Fort Fort. Yep.
You guys are connecting with the community out in Dallas too?
Yeah, 100%. So, I'm a big advocate of youth sports and people doing good things, right? So we try to put the logo and the name everywhere. I mean, if you notice, like that's what it's all about. Like, we want to extend our roots as much as we can to the community. We had the scholarship fund, you discussed, but like, how many charities that we donated to and 5K events that we created. Just, it's always about staying connected, because at the end of the day, it's about people.
Yeah.
Right. And I figured out my life purpose was to create a positive impact in everyone's life I come in contact with.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the idea. So this on the front is like, oh yeah, we're making you stronger, faster, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
We're making you healthier. But really, like, this is a positive, right, connection in a person and conversation that you can improve someone's life.
It's like a community.
Yeah.
Fame Strength in itself is a community that people can come to for positive vibes, positive energy. Working out is so good for a person, for their mental health, for their physical health, all those things. But one question we wanted to ask you too is, like, what do you think is the biggest problem some athletes are facing today in the new world, the digital world? Like, what do you think is a thing that's holding athletes
Like a big
back?
holdback, yeah.
So I think the mental.
Yeah.
And back to the motto, get your mind right. The mental is a big point right now with the athletes. And the reason I say that is because now athletes have so much access to everybody and everyone around the world.
Yeah.
So now what happens is you get to see other athletes, or maybe their accomplishments, their success, highlight reels.
Yeah.
So now what happens is the comparison starts.
Yeah.
Right? The comparison starts is like, oh man, like, well, look at this person, and I could do this, and the hype behind it. I think that's probably the biggest thing is the mental capacity of the sport. And I think what happens is, especially nowadays, kids are so pumped up of you're the greatest, you're going to the league, that when they hit these pitfalls, they can't bounce back, and that's here though, right? So like, I think that's essentially what's missing, and I don't know if it's, they don't go through enough struggle. I don't know if it's just a society where we're at with the teenagers, but mentally, yes, I think there's a drop off there as far as like that mental toughness, that kind of like, work through adversity.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're missing the boat. Everyone is, they think it should be given.
Yeah.
So
What's
Comparison
what's
is
the
thief
most
of joy.
productive way you found in helping kids improve that, like their mental state?
Sure.
You think it's just along the lines of like lifting, or do you think it's a lot more than that?
So I think you got to find the lane or the avenue that intrigues them.
Yeah.
Right. So working out this might be it. This might be the lane. It might be a sport. It might be a person. It might be a hobby. Like I think you got to figure out what intrigues them, and then once you figure that out, I think that's where now you can teach them, or you can break it down for them, because they're going to be open to it. They love it. They're enjoying whatever that is, and that's where I think the lessons start.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think like through something you're passionate about, through something that you have an inclination to do, you could possibly build like a necessary amount of self-esteem. And I think that's what sports have done for probably me and you guys. Like it gives you that confidence a little bit. And that could be with anything. That could be with if a kid likes gaming. That could be with if a kid likes engineering, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But another thing that, I was just talking to Jordan. I had Jordan on the phone before this, and he was telling me.
Little bro, shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Jordan Mason. He was telling me that one thing that he thinks is really interesting is that, we're either taught to become an athlete or we're either taught to make music. And sometimes that's not always, actually, most of the time that's probably not the case. Like, you're not going to become a professional in most cases, statistically speaking. Not saying that that's not possible, because I do believe you should, be thinking big at all times. And you're not going to become the next biggest rapper in most cases, statistically, not saying that that's not possible either. But I think there's other avenues that kids can take. Those being like businesses, or they could, filter their creative energy and their passion towards something else. Like I think it's necessary for people to continue to search and continue to experiment in all things of life, and ask themselves, like, what am I being pulled to? Like, what else am I being pulled to? What else can I do? What do I think is interesting? Kevin and I, we talk a lot about, we have this thing we do on the podcast. We call it corporate nightmares. We're like I want to never go corporate. I never want to be at a desk. I never want to be on some taking calls and making copies. Like, I think we should always strive to do something that we care about. Yeah. And if we could benefit from that financially, even better.
Right.
So, do you think there's a balance? Do you think there's like doing something that you're passionate about, which is like exercising and getting involved in the community, but also using that as your livelihood? Do you think that there's a disconnect there, or do you think there's a certain mindset that you can have in doing this to keep it fresh and to keep it energetic and fun, while also being like your job or your business?
So the key word is passion, right? So if passion exists, everything's going to be taken care of. Like at the end of the day, everything's going to be taken care of as you see it through. So when you say, hey, listen, I'm passionate about this, right? Started this from the ground up, and you see where we're at today. I'm still super passionate about this, right? So we're still rocking and expanding. But if there's passion and it exists, the fire's always there. It's always lit. It's always going to spark. It's when there's no passion is where you creep into a different realm. So if kids are doing things or adults are doing things that they don't enjoy doing, or they don't like what they're doing, it's probably not right. So you got to figure that out. And I think I was lucky, because not everyone, and at a young age, I figured out what my passion was. So I was able to run with it.
Right.
There's people that don't figure out their passion to their 30s, 40s, 50s. Right.
What do you think that is? Like, what do you think holds people back? Do you think it's being comfortable, getting starting a family?
I think it's a society and recycled information, right? So, you're taught, go to school, get an education, get a good job, buy a house, set up a family, right?
Yeah. The traditional way of
living. American dream. So you do all of that, and then you get the job and everything's set up, and then you figure out, damn, I don't really like doing it. This is not what I really want to do. So I made it a point, through those college years, that I was like, you know what? I never want to hate going to my job. Yeah. I never want, I've been around people, and I'm sure you guys too, family or whatnot, where people just damn, I got to go to work tomorrow. Yeah. I hate going. And in my head, it always played I never want to say that. I never want to do that. And if I do it like that, I know that's off the table. Yeah. Right? So I played the game like that. And I knew it was well, shit, I don't like doing that. So I'm not doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know? So financially, like, this wasn't the money maker. Like, when we started, like, first of all, I didn't even charge really at first. So we weren't making money, but I was so passionate about it, and I loved doing it, and I could spend hours doing it. And it did not matter. That's how you know.
Yeah.
The perk is like, hey, we turned it into this empire.
Yeah.
And now, there's financial gains behind it. But, like, at the end of the day, it was just because I'm passionate about it.
Yeah. I think there has to be a necessary amount of a balance between, like, logic and strategy, and also intuition and emotion. Because if you're too strategical, you might only think about the margins and the numbers and the profits and loss and all that other dumb shit. But if you're too intuitive and emotional, you might lose sight of what's necessary. You're like, I got to pay my mortgage or my rent or whatever it might be, right? So I think that's super necessary to have that, like, that balance between the two. But I also think, like, in a way, like, throughout school and throughout college and when we're growing up as kids and whatnot, it's almost like we are encouraged with the voices of our authority figures, our teachers, our parents, and they tell us to conform to society, I think, in a way. Do you get what I mean? And so I think oftentimes when we get older and we get to, like, the adult stages of life, we're not even thinking for ourselves. Like, we're thinking with the voices of the authority figures. Like, go to college, get a job, have a kid, get a house.
Yeah.
But I think we lose touch with, what do I really want?
Yeah.
Like, what really sparks my interest?
Right.
You know, and I think people could get connected to that too. I think I might have been in that situation where I was like, wait a minute, like, what am I doing? Like, I don't like this shit at all.
You get caught up in the rat race.
Yeah, that's it.
Just, like, it's the cycle. Like, you just get wrapped up in it. You know, the biggest thing for me was I knew I couldn't, not that I couldn't, but I didn't want to work for anyone.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted to be my own boss. I knew that. Like, that was the thing. It was just not the fact that I couldn't listen to somebody or you know, or be subordinate. It was more or less of like I have thoughts. I have power. I have influence. Like, I want to make my own decisions. Right? So, like, that always clicked in to me. And it's crazy how society could wrap you up and get you caught up in that rat race, and you lose sight of, like, really what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, you know, some people fall victim to it, and they get caught up, hit the work, and then, you know, 10, 15 years down the road, you look and you're like, damn.
Yeah, man.
Like, I'm still working at the spot that I picked
What
up
was
when
I doing?
20.
Yeah.
Like, and you know what I'm saying? So that was never in my head. Like, it was always bigger in my head. Like, it was always bigger. So even, you know, it's hard for me to connect even with people that are okay with that.
I see.
You see what I'm saying? Like, not that I don't like them or whatnot, but it's hard for me to process. Like, that's it for you? Like,
Understand.
that's it?
Yeah.
Like, that messes me up. Like, that's it? Like, can't be it.
Well, no, so, like, I think when we're young, I'm young, and we get, like, access to this new information that we're learning in books, and, like, we start applying it and it's working, we get really excited, or at least I get really excited, and I always try to preach. Like, I'm like, yo, if you only just do this, you don't even know you could change your whole life. You know what I mean? And that bothers people, I think. I think it kind of, like, yo, shut up, young kid.
Right.
Like, you don't even know nothing. But a lot of the times they say to me, like, well, you don't have kids and a family, and, like, you have kids and a family. So how do you balance still being passionate, you know, still building this empire, and going home and hanging out with the kids and balance the family time and that, and not making excuses and still making it happen?
Yeah. And you know, that's a lot, right? As a family man, like, it's a necessary thing. So you look at it, okay, if I have 3 kids, right? If, like, what I'm doing, I'm being an example for them. Right? So, like, everything and moves I make always considers their view or their opinion or their perspective. So I'm thinking, at the end of the day, as a parent, I think our jobs are to do the best we can with our kids so that they become or give them the advantages to become successful, right? Because there's a point where, like, they have to kind of run on their own, right? But I think our job is to prepare them for life and these lessons and these things that are going through. And the more we can do that through live examples, I think the better. So I look at my kids, right? So My wife's a business owner.
Yeah.
I'm a business owner, right?
That's sick.
So that's all they know.
Yeah.
Right? That's dope.
Yeah.
That's the environment you're putting them in.
That's dope. Like, you look at all my kids were brought up through this gym from the infant stage all the way up.
Yeah.
So this is normal, right? So, like, when they tap into their sports and when they tap into the training, this is normal, right? So, like, I think of those things, and you know, you hope that it passes on. It passes on to them because they're the next generation, and you know, obviously, they're going to carry the name, and you want to be proud. But at the end of the day, my job is to set them up to be successful. And I'll try to do that to the best of my ability.
And that's pretty cool that you get to coach them from obviously like the age that they're a newborn up until the age where they can start like training to compete at whatever sport they have or are going into, and then you get to train them for that as well. So like literally you just get to train your kids forever basically.
Yeah,
that's
right?
so cool.
Yeah,
you ever heard Robert Kiyosaki say there's a difference in the way poor people think and a difference between the way rich people think, and it's like the poor guy will be like, well, I can't afford it, and then chalk it right there. And then the rich guy will say, how can I afford it? I feel like that's kind of what you're teaching the young kids.
Remember I said the choice?
Yeah.
So like you could choose to say, oh, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But why not?
It's like how? Like ask your mind a question rather than telling it a statement.
Yeah, like here's the thing. Like there's a lot of things that like before we were here in DT, you were back in the days when we were at the garage.
Yeah.
You weren't in the basement, right?
Bigum was in the basement though.
So you know, like it doesn't just come out like this.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't come out like this. So I could have easily said, like, nah, man, I don't have enough money to buy all that equipment and drop all that the turf and the rubber and floors and, you know, hire coaches. I don't have the money for that. But that's not, no, listen, this is how we're going to start.
Yeah. It's a marathon.
Yeah. Nobody has it all at the start. Nobody has it all figured out at the start. The journey wouldn't exist.
No.
So it's all about like finding like how to add these little pieces every single day, and then at some point like you'll have what you have here. I'm like when you started, I'm sure you didn't even have a quarter of what you have in here.
I'll tell you right now, like, you know, the lesson in this is action, right? Like a lot of people talk.
Yep.
A lot of people talk, and then hey, I'm gonna do this, and I'm thinking of this, and I'm doing that, and the difference is the action. That's the difference, because you either do it, try to do it, or you continue to talk.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, action is one of the things I think that hold people back. And what's holding them back, it could be insecurities, it could be financially, it could be whatever, but you have to be in action. You know, I have a theme in my head is, like, move the needle. Yeah. Right? So my thing is everything in life, with my family, my businesses, everything, it's just move the needle, right? Because moving the needle is going to eventually add up. Yeah. So if I could just move it an inch, that's okay. We went up. Yeah. I'm moving another inch. That's okay. You look over a year, right? You see how much I moved? Yep. Where people want the big jump instantly. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Instantly. And it's not built like that.
It's not. I think that comes with, like, your mental foundation. You got to, like, have the proper foundation. What was that one analogy you used with the ship?
Yeah, the ship turning on a 1 degree angle over a certain amount of time, like a ship just coasting, just very slightly left or right, 1 degree turn over a year or over 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, whatever. The ship will be on a completely different course than where it started. Yeah. That's the smallest turn, like the smallest little difference you can make every day. And I think just that goes hand in hand with what you're saying. It's very important because, like, you'll never just start at the end. Like we were just saying, the journey is what's important. You want to go through all those little steps and improving every single day.
I think the journey might be what it's all about. Like there is no destination.
Yeah. It is. And you know, I started to think about that too as I'm getting older too with that is like, you know, you're like, oh, I can't wait till I'm at this point, right? But I think it's the journey. Yeah. That's the race there, the adrenaline that's pumping through that. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. Right? Because you look behind you guys, you see those posters, right? From the basement to the garage to this point. There's a reason why that's up there. And it's not only just because what we teach and who we are and type of you know, pedigree that's in here, but it's to give example, to show you, like, it doesn't all start like this. Yeah. Like, look how we started this. Yeah. So when you come in here and you're amazed by the space and you're like, this is amazing. Like, look how it started.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing. Someone coming in here that's unhealthy, overweight, but not. Look how it starts. Like, it takes time.
Yeah.
You just got to keep hammering.
If I'm correct, you guys initially built the equipment, right? Like you had like 2 by 4.
Yeah. Oh man. That's a good thing. So
the gutter days.
Remember,
dungeon days.
I didn't have money to buy the equipment. It's crazy expensive.
Yeah, man.
Right? And just starting off, getting out of college, I already have a family. Like, I don't have money to be buying $300, $400 sleds. Right? So we built them. So like,
wow.
We called it the red sled. It was a wooden horse.
Yeah.
Right? We flipped it upside down and we screwed like a flange and a pipe down through it, and then we loaded it with plates.
Yes.
And we pushed that horse, and that was our sled.
Yep.
But that shit got the job done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it didn't mean I had to have this fancy stuff. That was the same thing we were getting done.
Yeah.
I didn't have kettlebells. We used to use cinder blocks. Kettlebells.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
I used to bag garbage bags of sandbag and just tape it, duct tape it, right?
Oh,
just to
man.
have, like,
Any
bags.
means.
Like, we didn't have a dumbbell rack.
Yeah.
We used pallets, and we stacked. Like, they'd be all cracked because when you drop
Yeah,
them,
right.
but like, that was stacked. You know, we had tires like that. Those are free. Those are just in the yard. You had these elephant ropes, you know, that they had back then. That was to tie them for up at the circus.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
yeah.
For training.
Yeah. Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So
Wow.
like, these were things. I didn't have like hurdle jumps or boxes, soft plyos. So there was furniture in the building, so I would just put it in place and we were jumping over it.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Right? So like, you got to make it work.
Find a way, man.
We have dragon sleds. Like, we would just put like a tire, like a regular car tire, and then build a little wood platform, put the pipe on it,
Yeah.
put the plate on it, and you dragged it with a rope.
Wow.
That was your sled.
Yeah.
Your sled drag. So that goes back to me where the motto, get your mind right, and also where the way you think. Because easily I could have said, I don't have money for this. I don't have that. We can't do that. Like, this is a stupid dream, man. I don't know. Right? But I was like, nah, let's figure this shit out. You know what? What's that look like? I think I can make that.
Yeah, right?
You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's how I think.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Let's figure it out. So even with my kids today, they'll be like, Dad, I can't do that. And I'll come figure it out. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I can't do it. What did you do? Did you explore all options?
Yes.
Did you think all the way through? I'm trying to teach that. Like, figure it out. Through my journey, there was times I had to figure it out. And if you don't go through that extra effort to figure it out, you're not going to be successful. Like, you have to figure it out. It might take you days. It might take you months. It might take you years. But figure it out, because there's a way. Right?
Yeah, man. I remember that was like the thing my dad said to me growing up. Like, Dad, I don't know how to do this. Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Like, literally, I literally have a text receipt with my dad right now. I sent him in quotations, figure it out. Greatest advice I've ever received. Because if you just tweak your perspective and your mindset towards trying to just figure out whatever it is that you want to accomplish, your mind's gonna figure it out. Like, your brain will do it for you, which I think is awesome. But another thing I want to talk about too is, like, you were a super don't let this man be humble. He was a super competitive athlete. You bring up Josh Mason in the Wilkes-Barre area. Everybody knows him as an athlete. You know, you played for 2 Division I schools. Played at SEM too, so that's another thing. That's pretty cool. But so being competitive your whole life as a kid, do you think, like, are you treating business as something like that now? Like, are you treating business as your new sport on some Mark Cuban type time?
So there you go right there. So, like, I'm giving a speech actually Sunday to about 400 or 500 students up in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, that's
So
dope.
I touched on that.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is this. What switched up for me, I knew what I was good at. I knew where I was successful. I knew where I had value. It was in sports, right? Once I made the shift and said, all right, wait a second, I'm done with sports, right? Hung up the cleats, we're done. Now, if I can take that same energy, those same philosophies, skills, tools, and say, life is my new sport, business is my new sport, because in sport, You want to be the best. You want to be the top. You want to keep getting better. You know, you're keeping score, right? If I can apply those strategies into life and in business, I'll succeed. Because I'm so hungry, dude. Like I'm such a competitor. Even today, like if we were just tossing cornhole, like I'm competitive. Right? Like it's just nature. So why don't you apply it to life? Because if you can make that switch over, then that shit turns into fun. Now you're like, let's get it.
How amped up you get to like compete. You can easily. I mean, not easily, but I think it's very applicable.
Like this is a sport, dude.
And Fame Strength is the best performance gym in this area, hands down. Not even just in this area.
Now you know.
I think there's plaques up there somewhere
all
saying
day,
that.
Baby.
That's tough.
Get famous. You know it.
Nah, that's awesome though, man. And I think that's really cool. Like one thing you were also able to accomplish, which I really admire, is and I think I talk to a lot of business owners. Remember when I was telling you about that that little business I started with the placemats?
Yeah.
That went well.
Yeah.
I made a couple grand doing that.
Good.
But I didn't like it. Like I didn't like calling people,
passionate.
and I didn't so I just was like, nah. But I made good money off of it.
Yeah.
And I ended up buying that house.
Nice.
Right? With that money.
Yeah, see?
So we made it happen.
Purpose.
But I will say, I think it's cool like how business is like self-improvement disguised as business.
Oh yeah.
You see how that you see what I'm trying to say by that? Like business endeavors is like self-improvement disguised as a business in a way.
It is. So all right, let's look at it like this. So as an athlete, right? If you want to be the best in your sport, you have to one, put in a lot of reps and time in that specific sports, right? That skill. 2, you have to have a resource like this for performance training because you have to get faster, you have to get stronger, you have to be more explosive, right? 3, you have that recovery, right? Taking care of the body, making sure everything's healing properly so you can be at your best.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
The motto, get your mind right. It's a mental thing that you're all in there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in business.
Yeah.
So if you have business and you're talking about self-development, you're the athlete.
Yeah.
Self-development is the training.
Yeah.
Performance training. Right? Is the recovery. Right? Is the skill reps.
Yeah. I like that connection, how you made that like that.
So when you're doing all of that, then you're going to succeed in business.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that, you don't succeed. Same thing on the athlete side.
Yeah.
If they're not putting in work, you don't see it.
Absolutely.
Same thing, man.
Right. And what I was going to say, though, before I got into that, I kind of was on like a fork, like a branch.
Yeah.
But one thing I admire, though, is how you were able to create a system. I think a lot of business owners, when I was calling all these business owners, when I was doing placemat work for them, they weren't able to systemize themselves. Yeah. So they always had to be present. Their time still was equivalent to the amount of money that they were making. And I think that's really cool. Like to be able, that's a shift. Like we talk about Robert Kiyosaki, there's like that cash flow quadrant where you come from self-employed to being an actual business owner, where you own a system now and you can have people help to run your system. That's impressive.
Yeah. And that's what I call lifestyle design.
Yeah.
So like I even tell my wife and she's always like, yeah, all right. So lifestyle design. I built it to be like this.
Yeah.
Right? Like this was the vision. The idea is there's two commodities, like money and time.
Yeah.
Right? Like time you don't get back.
Yep.
So if we can leverage it, like why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So if I can put systems and processes in place in a business that can operate and be successful, now it removes me essentially from the business on the floor, but I'm still working on the business, right? The brand, the empire itself. That gives me more time and energy to do that, to grow this, instead of me being in here 60 hours on the floor training, which I once did, right? Like love doing it, passionate, and or helping. But now it's to a point where it's like, okay, I want to start working on the business, not in the business. And that's where you made the shift. And I think that's
awesome.
all about choice. Like, that's lifestyle design. I knew that I wanted to do that.
That's really cool. I think that's really cool. That's awesome. And do you think that you structure your own personal life like that as well, from like an organized, strategical standpoint as well, where you're always trying to structure what you're trying to accomplish and what you're just doing on the regular?
Yeah, I mean, what you'll figure out if you haven't already is the more of like, remember those repetitions, right? Like, if you put things in place, so if you have goals, like you have to put a path to that goal, right? Like, how do I get there?
Right.
Okay, so you have to map that out. And mapping that out breaks down the reps that you have to do.
Right.
So if this is the goal I want, and I broke it all down, and here it explains the reps that I have to do and continue to do, which will get me to this end, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I'll put it, lifestyle design, on how I want. Like, I love to travel, right? Like, so I want to take my family on vacations. I want to go to islands. I want to explore. I want the kids to get outside of the bubble, right? That's lifestyle design.
Yeah.
I'm setting up so we can make that happen. We have made that happen, but to make it happen even more, you know?
Where you guys going? You told me you're going on vacation. Where you guys going?
So next week we're going Anna Maria Island down in Florida.
Wow. Nice, man.
So that's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice,
tough.
man. We got a little beach house right on the beach, so that's gonna be a great time, you know.
Yeah.
And it's good. Like I said, that's healthy.
Yeah.
To get out, reset, and provide experiences, man. I always look back at my childhood, and you had good times, bad times, whatnot. But like as a parent, like you want to provide the best, right? So I think one of the advantages as I was growing up was being exposed to different levels. And it didn't really happen until I went to SEM, right? And when you're exposed to different levels and you go you crack outside of your realm is where the mind opens up and you're like, okay, wait a second, there's more.
Yeah.
There's more. And that's what I want to establish with my kids, is that I want to show them the world. I want to show them outside the bubble of like, hey, so that mindset is like, there's more.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Explore it.
There's more out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big ocean out there, man.
Yeah.
You can't confine yourself to a small city area. I think that also where like egos and like athletes and sports come into play. Like around here, when you're in a small city and you don't really know what the world has to offer, you think of yourself as hot shit. And then when you get knocked down, we were kind of touching on that earlier. When you get knocked down and you face one like hard suit, it like really F's with you because you don't really get to see all the competition that's out there.
Right.
Which is another thing that I think is big about getting out there and traveling around and seeing what the world has to offer. But that's dope, man. You said Florida?
Florida, yeah.
That's sick. I've never been. I would love to be to Florida, man. I would love just to go there.
Yeah. No, it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. How you doing on time?
I'm great.
Yeah.
I'm great. We
Cool.
keep rocking.
Yo, so one thing I also wanted to talk to you about too, I think you have a cool perspective on, is there's like a new emergence of owning like masculinity. Do you have a perspective on that, like how a man should carry themselves, like men having a purpose, having a direction, and being able to provide? Like, what's your standpoint on that?
So again, you're right. You touch on a component. I read a book. It was The Mask of Masculinity by I think his name was Lowe's or something like that. But what it talked about was how like men are built through society, like how we're supposed to be like toughest, no emotions, and like all that good stuff. And it tells you about the masks that we wear, so to speak. And you know, this passed down information creates this. Super interesting. But my thought is this, you know, it was growing up, I always thought like I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to be true to myself no matter what situation I was in, any circumstances I was in. I wanted to just be real, right? Because I think that's truth.
Yeah.
Right? So it was, for me, it was always like I'm just be me. I don't want to put an act on to be something else or someone else at any point. So tapping into being authentic I think is super vital. And as you talk about as a male, as a man, just be authentic to yourself. I think you say egos, right? Like we chase things or images or visuals or whatever that is. And I think you could be left empty and lost by doing that, compared to just being authentic and being real with yourself and what you enjoy to do, what do you feel is right, what's your integrity like, things like that I think shape you. And if you can get to the realness of it, like, I think that's where the happiness lies. And if when you're trying to be something you're not, that's where you get lost, I think.
It's very easy to see, like, it's very easy to tell when somebody's being very inauthentic as well. And it's very, like, distasteful. I try to shun myself away from people like that, that, like, try to fit, like, a mold or a glove that they're not. You know what I mean? It's something I look for. Or not necessarily look for, but I could easily see in a lot of people.
Oh, I appreciate people being out there. Like, I appreciate
absolutely.
Like, it was always like, hey, listen, I don't want to have to feel uptight, put a suit on, and, like, sit and, like, pretend, like I want to be me. And by being me, I got gym shorts and a T-shirt on, a backwards hat, and I can kick it with the top CEOs. Like, that's where I'm at. And my conversation and my dialect, like, we can connect still. I don't have to put on this persona or this image that I'm not to feel accepted, so to speak. So be authentic. And if they don't like it, and there's people that, like, want to whisper about it, let them. Because at the end of the day, like, you're true. It's you.
Yeah, and especially in our business, like, people will see that, and there's always people that'll still want to work with you regardless. You don't necessarily want to work with or do business with people that won't accept you for who you are anyways, you know what I mean? And there's always people that will be willing to work with you or your brand and whatever you bring to the table because of the authentic thing that we were talking about earlier. People could see that, and they notice it. And they would rather, like me personally, I would rather work with somebody who's authentic than somebody, like you were saying, that has to control how they act around certain people, which, I mean, it's definitely, you got to tone that up a little bit, but you definitely got to be who you are. Got to be who you are, man.
I think that's very true. Like, being genuine is something that's very present or very visible, I think. You know, like, people can sniff that like a shark. I think there's some pieces of it, though, where you're also trying to experiment, like, who am I? You know, especially in my own life, like, who am I? You know, what do I like? You know, all that. How do I like to dress? You know, I think there's also, like, an experimental side of that as well. And I think it's cool to figure stuff like that out. Like, I don't want to work for anybody either. I want to be able to make my own decisions. I want to be able to hang out and go where I want, when I want, you know? And so figuring that out is a beautiful thing. And I think it's being intuitive, like, you know, inquisitive, and having those type of traits that will allow you to get to that position. I think I like the new conversation of masculinity. 'Cause I think that it gives men, like, an outlet in a way. Like, I'm allowed to be competitive, and I could talk about my emotions and myself. Like, absolutely, man. You know, we need tough men. Because the tough men are the guys who fought in our wars. The men who are very purpose driven are the men who built civilization. You know, and I think that's important for us to get in touch with that, because without those, you know, we don't know where we might be. You know, direction and purpose and strength. Like,
and I think that goes back to the whole mental capacity, right? You know, mental health. Like, because if you're trying to be something you're not, or trying to fit into a mold, and that's pressure and stress that, like, you don't need, man. You know, absolutely, that weighs on you. So I think that's typically where people, you know, get dropped off, you know. But, you know, I always lived with the saying of, like, you know, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Right? You hear that saying. I've learned whenever there's situations or circumstances or opportunities where I'm like, I'm like a little bit in a good way, right? I know that's opportunity for growth. Like, so I would tell you guys and everybody is that when you're nervous and anxious and, like, hey, it seems like a good opportunity, but you let that weak voice get a little bit louder of why you shouldn't do it, or maybe find an excuse how to get out of it because you didn't like the way you were feeling with it because you're nervous about it. Go after that. Go after that. So I've learned that. something happens, come up, like, oh, man. Instantly you're like, oh, okay. A little nervous. Can I do that in my head? And you're thinking, and I know when it's that feeling, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely doing that.
Yeah, you got to go in that
like,
direction
I'm definitely
of your
doing
fears.
that because that's the only time you grow. When you go outside your box, your comfort zone. That's the only time you grow.
Absolutely. The two are equivocal. Like that discomfort is necessary for growth.
100%.
You know? I think like sometimes we'll talk to people and I'll feel anxious. Like, damn, that's gonna be crazy, but still got to go towards it because
that's it.
You're making connections. You're also providing a whole ton of value for the people who are tapping in. Yeah. And I like this. Me and Kevin, we shouldn't be really sharing this, but me and Kevin we're in cahoots with this one brand called Seek Discomfort. Yeah. And I mean, they're big time. And we just reached out to them. We've been connecting back and forth with them, which is really cool. But their message is to seek that discomfort. Mm-hmm. Put yourself in these uncomfortable situations so that you could manufacture your own growth, which I think is an awesome way to think about things.
Yeah. And control your own destiny and your own mind. Like that's one thing that they're big on over there is making sure that whatever's holding you back won't hold you back forever. Finding what those things are and attacking them. You know what I mean?
It forces you to grow.
Yeah.
Like it forces you. Like so like at that point, if you're not going to do it on your own, like why not? Take that on. Like when you can understand that and embrace that, like that's a beautiful thing, man. Like you get opportunities, you're uncomfortable. Like like success is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, do you think you experienced that like when you were going to upsize the size of your gym and the scale of your gym, like when it was time for that, do you think like, oh shit, you started to feel butterflies and stuff like that?
Yeah, so you gotta think about every move. It was like, oh shit. So like, but the biggest one was from the garage over in South Wilkes-Barre to this one.
Yeah.
Because you see how big this is.
Oh yeah, man.
Right. So the garage was 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Wow. I was in South Wilkes-Barre, right? Like so. You come over here, you know, you got 7,000 square feet over here. So overhead.
Yeah.
Like now it's different.
Yeah.
Right? Like utilities and paying coaches and
more responsibilities.
Yeah, and hey, are they gonna follow us?
Yeah.
Like the athletes and the adults are like, are they gonna come with us? Mm-hmm. So at first you're like, I came in here. Man. The moment I came in, loved the space. I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
And then when you think and you sign on the dotted line, and I'm like, oh, shit, I hope this works.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like, that's a natural thought.
Yeah.
That's a natural thought. Like, dude, we're taking on a bigger overhead and more risk right now.
Yeah.
Plus, think about the startup cost to drop all this.
Right.
To outfit the space.
Right.
1,500 square feet. I had to get new turf, new rubbers.
Right.
You know, we carried that rack over here, but new racks, everything. So that's also coming out. So, like, there's a lot that you take on. But, like, here's the deal. When I made that move, and now, retrospect looking, like, that was the best thing I could have done.
Yeah, right.
That was the best thing I could have done.
Yeah. Hit that one on the head, man.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it was the best thing I could have done because I knew I wanted to grow this brand. I knew I wanted to be big. I knew I want to be known in the world.
Yeah.
In strength, right? In South Wilkes-Barre, in that garage, wasn't going to happen.
Right. You were outgrowing it.
You knew that. I was outgrowing it, and which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I knew there's more to offer. Like, I want to help a wide range. I want to help everyone, not just the South Wilkes-Barre and, you know, neighboring towns. It was like, let's get out. Let's see who we can help.
Right. So, do you think, what do you think what can you disclose about what your plans are for the future? You think you'll open another gym? Do you think
that's what I was going to ask?
What do you got going on for the future that you could talk about?
So, without letting things out the bag, right?
Yeah.
No, so listen, like, this is the way I'm wired, right? Remember I said move the needle.
Sure.
I'm always trying to move the needle. So no matter what I'm in, what I'm doing, I'm always trying to make it bigger. I'm always trying to grow. I'm trying to develop and be the best, right? We're driven to be the best. So in saying that, of course, in my vision is there's more.
Sure.
Of course, in my vision, there's a bigger platform.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, it'd be silly not to think that way. Remember the magic of thinking big?
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about I want the world to know me. So, like, you know, we're over here in 44, got 2 locations. Like, that's not even close to the world, right? But that's constantly rolling.
Yeah.
So if I have that rolling, yes, growth, expansion, I'm always up for opportunity. So the thing is we have plans.
Yeah.
And you'll see.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you too, man, because I always think about it for guys like yourself, and I know we were touching on it a little bit before we started rolling about like the potential for your own podcast or whatnot. But what is there anything holding you back from like putting your voice out like on the media for like the world to see that way?
You know what? Like I always thought about this, and I mean we could go back to the years I even was talking to you. Like I always felt I had a unique perspective.
Yeah.
And now like through my life experiences, like there's a lot of things that I could teach.
Right.
And put the youth on, and put individuals on that I think could be benefit. And in the back of my mind, it always sat there and said, like, hey, man, I'd love to be a motivational speaker or, you know, be a keynote speaker in the sense of talking to the youth. And, you know, these opportunities come up, but I have a focus of where we're at. But I lied to you if I said that that's not in the vision.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, I feel like there's going to come a time where my voice needs to be heard, or I want to tell my story, or I want to connect and interact with more people. I told you about the podcast. Like, that's part of it, right? That's part of it because there's things that I can teach. You know, I look at when I was growing up, there was no, you know, the role model in the sense of, like, to be successful. Like you point to like, hey, sports, you can be an athlete, you could be a music, you could be a rapper, right? Like that was kind of it for us, especially as the little black kid, right?
Yeah.
So it was tough to see, even in the schools, like I didn't see people who looked like me teaching. So in my head, is teaching a reality? No presidents were black. So a reality in my perspective, is that real? But like when you start to see that, now you're like, oh, yeah, you could do that. Those are different role models.
Yeah.
Right? That's different. So then I was like, well, I want to be in a position for the little black boy that was sitting there and say, damn, he did that? Like, oh, I could do this.
Right.
I could do this. So, like, that pushes me. That drives me. And I love to inspire. Like that's why I feel like I would have a voice and love to, like, interact and
that's really
speak,
cool,
you know?
man.
And there's really no better way to do it besides, I mean, the avenue you're already taking and then that avenue, you know what I mean? Like, here you get to, like, actually be in person and touch base with a lot of these people, and you get to see them face to face and talk to them. But then on, like, the online side of the spectrum, you could, say, touch somebody 8 states away or in another country that is thinking just like you're thinking, that you may have never met at all in real life.
It's true, and you never know. Like, right, there's nuggets everywhere. Like, I always say the golden nuggets, like whether you're reading a book, listening to a podcast, whatever, right? There's little nuggets that you could grab. And if you could grab and utilize them and put them into action, right? Remember the action.
Yeah.
Put them in action, you can make things happen.
Yeah.
So my thing is like, hey, if I'm able to speak to individuals, maybe they'll grab some nuggets and, you know, that's going to propel them.
Yeah.
In a sense. You know, like I look at you. All the game I was dropping on you at a young age, dude, like, I'm sure that has something sitting in there, of like, you know, some influence. But that's what I love that. Like, that's great because that's how the world goes around.
Yeah.
Like, you need people like that.
Sometimes that's all it takes for some people, too, is being able to hear that one statement or sentence by that one person. You know what I mean? That's all that it takes
like,
sometimes.
One thing that would always sticks in my head to this day was I brought home my report card, and my dad said, I got a C, right? And I don't know if you remember in the key, it used to say, like, A, extraordinary, B, excellent, C, average.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Average not.
Yeah, right? So, C, average. So, I would come home, he's like, dude, you can't get C's on your report card. But I'm like, no, that's good. Like, what are you talking? Like, Dad, look.
Passed.
It's average. Like, good. And he was like, you are not average, though.
Yeah.
So, like, it's something small in that context, but, like, that moment of saying you're not average,
the nugget
changed everything.
Yeah.
Never got to see again then.
Yeah.
And I remember, even if I was close, I'd be begging the teacher for extra. Like, I could not get that C because it was average. You dig?
Yep. If you think, like, if you never heard that, what do you think that would have did to you? You would have went. I mean,
like
you probably would have realized at some point, I would
have realized it. But you know, the thing is at that point, like, I'll always remember that.
Yeah.
Like, I'll always remember that. At that day when he said you're not, like, that was like, oh, Okay. Mm-hmm. So then that was my mentality always. I was never average. Right?
What's the quote you got in here? It's all over the gym. It's I think it was in the bathroom at the garage. It was excellent, not average, or something like that. It was in the bathroom.
Oh, no. I think you're talking about average is bullshit.
Average is bullshit.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I'm
bullshit.
talking about. Yeah.
So like we wanted to kind of have that thought and that philosophy in it. Average is bullshit.
Yeah.
It is. And like now you see where it stemmed from?
Yeah. I see.
Because like I say, do you want to be great or do you want to be average? Like average is bullshit. Like if you're just creeping by and just riding these waves, like I don't want to be average, dude. I want to be great. I want to maximize as much as I can.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Right? And that's for anybody. Like that's the same way you should think. Average is bullshit.
I remember you and I had a conversation once in the gym. Him and I used to sit like for an hour after the workout. I used to just talk to him, like ask him questions and stuff like that. And I remember he told me one time, and I still like say this to my friends. He was like, dude, I believe I could do anything. I seen Kanye West say some shit like this. Like, I believe I can go to the NBA if I really decided to go to the NBA right now.
Yeah.
He was like, if I had to build a house and I had a blueprint, I'm building the house.
Right.
Like, if you just have I think like that now. I try to think like that now. Like,
real talk.
if I want to conquer whatever, I'm gonna conquer it.
Yeah.
If I really pinpoint like this is what I'm doing, but I think that takes clarity though.
It takes clarity, like get your mind right,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like the mental aspect, you need to have that in line.
Yeah.
You need to have lessons and tools from reading and knowledge and experiences to be able to like own that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you I believe that.
Yeah.
Like I believe I can do anything before. So my daughter's 5, right? And before she goes to bed every night, I say, "What's your name?" And she goes, "Liddy Mason." And what? I can do anything.
Nah, that's beautiful, man.
That's it.
God damn.
Like, because once you believe it, it's real, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not lying. I feel like I could do anything I put my mind to do.
Yeah.
I just don't decide to do it. Like, I don't want to do that.
So if the plane was coming down, you would get in the cockpit and take it
just start flying that shit.
And like, hey, you might fail.
Yeah.
You might fail. You might mess up. You might make mistakes in that sense. But if you continue to work on it and polish it up, you're going to make it happen. So the idea is like, hey, I wanted to build my house. I don't know how to build houses, right?
Yeah.
But like, if I wanted to, I know I can.
Yeah.
Because why? I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to just quit too. Like that, we were just talking about that earlier. It's so easy to just run into a roadblock like that and quit. But if you have that in your mind that shit's not going to get in your way, then you'll solve that. Might run into another one, you'll solve that. Most people just quit when they run into that first roadblock.
Yeah. And belief in yourself, dude,
Yeah.
Self-esteem, confidence, like belief in yourself. I can do anything.
Yeah.
Like that's going to help you in life so much.
No doubt.
Right? Like, and so much. So, like, me just saying that to my daughter, like, she might not even understand that yet, right?
Yeah.
Like, but me just keep saying it to her.
You're planting the seed.
That's it.
And it's just it's gonna nourish itself.
One day it'll make sense.
I could do anything.
Yeah.
So she's out there, and even little stuff, like, if she's in gymnastics, so she was trying to do this back walkover, and she couldn't get it. And I was like, what's your name? I said, Liddy Mason. And what? I could do anything. Then do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like you just continue to pound that. And again, that's the mental, man.
Yeah.
You know?
I bring this up in a lot of podcasts we do, but there's Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I think I think it might be the second chapter. It's called Autosuggestion.
Mm-hmm.
And in that book, as you probably know, and as people who have listened to this before, he has studied plenty of people who have taken over different industries, and he studied the commonalities between these people. And he felt necessary to write down autosuggestion, and that is, I am powerful. I could do anything. I will, get this new space. I will get this new gym. I will get, new coaches. I will do this. I will. And like continuing to plant that into your own mind to the point where you believe it. I think people who accomplish the biggest things are delusionally optimistic.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool.
Well, that's what I say, like, that book of Magic and Thinking Big. If you're a big thinker, it makes you feel normal then.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you think so big.
Yeah.
And it's beyond the level of where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People look at it funny. right? Or maybe you don't want to say it or express it because you think people are going to be like, dude, you're nuts.
Yeah.
Right? But you need that.
Yeah.
You need that, right? Like, that's a huge lesson. Auto suggestion, man, like, I'm huge with the affirmations, all of that. There's times where before I go to bed, I'll have like a positive affirmation kind of like track going, you know, and it could just be saying, I can, or I'm strong, I'm confident, I'm whatever. Like, that shit helps.
Yeah, it does.
You know what I'm saying?
It
That
does.
shit helps, dude.
Because your mind is almost like a fortress.
It is.
And if you continue to build it, like you're doing this with your daughter already, and so by the time it's her time, she's gonna have such a wall built and have such a fortitude built. And so if you continue to build that fortress, build that castle, there's gonna be no room for invasion. It's gonna be so strong.
That's
so when
it.
the negative times come and the trials and tribulations come, you're gonna be ready. I can overcome this.
Right.
I can break this wall.
Right.
I can do whatever I
That's a
imagine
beautiful
I could do.
message.
Get your mind right.
Get your mind
See
right.
You see what
Get
I'm
your
saying?
mind right.
Get your mind right.
Coach
like,
Mace, where can we go watch your videos on Instagram? Let us know all your plugs, how we
Yes.
can get in contact with you, where we can come work out. Let the people know.
Yes. So IG, Fame Strength at Dallas. You'll see it on IG. We're on Facebook too as Fame Strength. We have a location here in 40 Fort. We have a location in the back mountain behind Gino's Shoes in Red Leaf. Shout out.
Yeah.
2 locations there. We have the Recovery Lab here, which is sports recovery, human wellness. They're also on IG too, Recovery Lab 570, and Facebook. You guys want training? You guys want to maximize your athleticism? You just want to live a healthier lifestyle? Fame Strength's the way to go. You get your mind right. I tell people what we say. You want to get famous.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And this is the guy running this ship. So
Yeah.
where else do you want to be?
Beautiful environment here.
Get famous.
Fucking this gym is amazing.
Fame, strength. Get your mind right.
Uh-oh.
Be bold. Let's get it.
Hey, big shout out to Go Getters,
Appreciate
man.
it.
I love
Yeah,
what
man.
you guys are doing.
Thank you.
This is awesome.
Appreciate you, man.
I love seeing
Thank
young
you.
men like taking over, taking action.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, remember what we discussed, like you could talk about it, but you guys are taking action. And it's not
Absolutely.
perfect. This ain't like you don't have it all figured out. But as long as you keep moving the needle, you're gonna
Never
make
have it
happen,
always
dude.
figured out,
You're
man.
gonna make it happen.
Thank you.
So thank you for
Let's
having
go.
me on.
Let's go.
Good luck. See you guys.